So we're talking a lot about error. A couple other things I want to emphasize here. Standard English is not the same thing. It's not identical with good English. Read the Dan Quayle quote. Tell me what you think of it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There you go. I mean, look, that sentence is perfectly standard English, right? It's also utter nonsense. I mean, I think we're on an irreversible trend, but that could change, right? Now, what do you think about the second one? Which, by the way, if you're not familiar with Jessamine Ward, she's a great author. Salvage the Bones is a great book. Skeet is a name, yes. The second one gives you a headache. Interesting. I'm gonna Alec, how's it going? We're doing grammar class today. I love this one too. I'm not gonna try to read this in any kind of other than my own accent, but listen to the rhythm here. If she come back, Skeet, ain't like she gonna leave again, I say. I mean, if she come back, ain't like non-standard English. Ain't no if. Skeeter rubs his head from his neck to the crown of his skin. Is like neck from his neck to the crown of his skin. Like his skin is a t-shirt he could pull off and over his... That should read skull. I mistyped that. Like he could pull who he is off and become something else. Like he could shed his human shape in the dark, be hatched a great gleaming pit, black to China's white, and run off into what's left of the woods, follow the line of the creek, and find China sniffing at the bole of an oak tree, filled with quivering squirrels, or sniffing at the earth, at the rabbits between the waters. Not if, when. Now, I'm not going to explain the context to this. This comes from very late in the book, and it would be more comprehensible if I gave you the background. However, that's not my point of showing it. That rhythm is impeccable. That is good prose, right? It has balance, it has flow, it is communicatively expressive in a way that, in an intentional way, that the Dan Quayle quote is not. Yeah, it's lovely. And for those of you who don't know this book, Salvage the Bones, it's about this 12-year-old girl, African-American girl, and her family living in the immediate context in the days immediately before and during and after Hurricane Katrina. Right. Awesome book. Highly recommended. Very, very tough book. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Boy Swallows Universe. Okay, Bins. Absolutely. Send me the reminder in Discord and I'll see about picking it up. So along those lines, I wanted to share with you another thing. This one requires a little bit more reading, so I can't use the PowerPoint for it. Let me just pull it up. All right. I've got two letters here, or two pieces of prose here. They're a little bit longer than anything we've looked at. The question is like, basically, what do we make of the style of this letter? And I'll just let you guys read it and come up with your own reactions before I say anything. You're on mobile, can't read it. Sorry about that, Emmy. Is it legible to other people? Can I make it bigger? I probably can, yes. Let's see. Yep. I think that's about as big as I can make it. I'll read bits of it. Yeah, say Bell syndrome one more time. And so the fall quarter is coming to an end. Although this is not surprising in itself, the Bell syndrome is. Think about that. Yeah, there's all kinds of weird things going on here, right? This is bad writing, right? This is from a college student, UCLA student. So presumably one who was able to get in, yep, put in big words to sound smart, exactly. But if you look at the actual content of what it's saying, if we work, we can follow the argument, right? The student has observed that grading on a bell curve means that, automatically some students will be failing, things like that, right? But notice how it is expressed, right? The fall quarter is coming to an end. Although this is not surprising in itself, why the hell would anyone think for a minute that the fall quarter ending would be surprising, right? This is the sort of reflexive, cliched tick that they have. It's like, it's a desperate attempt to link the observation about the fall quarter coming to an end with the Bell syndrome, right? Except purple prose, except boring, yes. They must become cognizants of the fact, so can't even use the right part of speech here, that those students if you read this out loud, you'll see the problem. That those students that succumb to the Bell syndrome has facilitated others to escape. This person has never read aloud a single word that he's written in his life, right? It is atrocious, right? And by the way, Mickey, I know exactly. I've been through exactly that. And by the way, for those of you who have to do any kind of writing, lock yourself in your bathroom or somewhere private and read aloud what you have written before you turn it in. It will turn up so many issues, right? So much bad writing is simply the result of nobody has ever spoken this aloud. You have no feel for the rhythm of your sentences, right? When you look at the thing like this, like, students must not allow the umbra of the Bell syndrome to abort the self-determination of fellow students. Like, what does that even mean? Like, umbra, okay, clearly the student has been, using a thesaurus a little too liberally, right? But aborting the self-determination of fellow students. I mean, like, clearly the argument, okay, fine, but here's the thing to think about with something like this. We read this and we laugh at this bozo. I mean, my reaction is, first of all, not a lot of departments actually grade on a curve the way this student is suggesting, but if it's going to put out an idiot, if it's going to wash out somebody who's this incompetent, I'm all for it, right? I mean, uni students from America need to use Australian English in their papers? That sounds like a one-off sort of thing. I mean, this is a bad example, but it's not atypical. This is an extreme one, but not so unusual that it surprises me to see it. Right now, the one interesting thing to think about in terms of this and style and how you present yourself is the traditional writing handbooks say that you should be clear, that you should, reveal yourself, or things like that. But when I look at this, my reaction is the student has revealed himself. He's revealed himself to be a jackass, right? So, be clear that that thing that writing books are always telling you, be clear, needs a lot of contextualization, right? When we're talking about being clear, you might as well just say, be smart or something like that. This is very clear in a certain way, but it is unintentionally self-revealing. Oh, bins, I would love to see some of those. It'd be wonderful. Just throw a few mates in there, you'll be fine. Well, let me show you a second example of what would traditionally be called bad writing. Where's my... the hell is going on here? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So this one's not by a student. This is by a, obviously, faculty member or president of university. Tell me what you think about this. Let me see if I can get more of it on screen here. So it sounds like you're all reading this and your eyes are glazing over and you're like, why couldn't it just be said more directly? Is that a fair summary? All right, SG, thanks so much. Take care. Yeah, it is dull, right, to us, but I invite you to think, write to you like you're a toddler, or like write to you like you're a toddler. Okay, this is a university president. What is he saying here, right? He's writing to the faculty. He's saying, like, imagine if we followed Mickey's advice, right? Hey guys, we're broke. We need to cut costs, right? Some of you are going to be fired. Others will have your budgets cut. How well would that go? Would that letter go over? Yeah, your lulls are speaking volumes, right? You didn't realize it was about budget cut. In face of notice the budgetary stringencies. In face of both the severity and continuing character of budgetary stringencies, which we thus face, right? Right. So notice what he's saying is, look, our budgets are tight and it's going to stay tight, right? Therefore, we're going to do a review. Now, here's the thing, right? In that situation, can a university president be blunt, right? It wouldn't be very presidential, right? In other words, rather than thinking about style in an abstract universe where we have this vague notion of clarity or grace, right? And in that abstract sense, this piece of writing fails that, right? But if you think about it as a performance for a specific purpose, right? Exactly, Bins, right? What this is communicating is, look, this is a serious problem. I am a serious person. You can trust me to take care of this in a fair and neutral way. Right? So, there's a lot of stuff that is going on here, right? That is missed if we just look at the, simple issues of style, be clear, that kind of thing. Yeah, people would panic. They would be very upset if you were blunt. Yeah, you hated working at... Well, here's the thing, like a bureaucrat, once you get used to this way of writing, it becomes natural. We assimilate the style of the writing that we're exposed to. This is why fields develop their own jargon, right? They have a particular purpose for it. It might be a purpose that outsiders find risible, but nonetheless, it is useful. So you want to think about it in those terms, right? So take some time. I like to think about language and style as style shouldn't be something that you ignore, that is like transparent. The urge to write a sort of simple, clear, basic thing is its own style, but it pretends to be no style at all. It pretends to be utterly transparent, right? In reality, every style that we adopt is done for rhetorical positioning, right? Yep, exactly. They need to be... Weasel words are a good way to put it, right? All right. Let's go back to what we were doing. All right. We are coming to the end of today. So I just kind of wanted to quickly give you an overview of where I want to go from here. I'll be happy to take any last questions before we wrap things up. So these topics are broad topics. This does not mean we're going to do 4 class topics, and we've already added one. We've already added word formation to it, but I want to sort of show you, give you an overview of how I'm going to try to develop this. How much detail I go into in each of these topics totally depends on you. We can go as deep into the rabbit hole as you all have patience for. In general, what you will find with a lot of grammar is the basics are pretty straightforward. But in order to get a really accurate account, you have to complicate things. And so after a certain point, things are going to get, intellectually rigorous, let's say, right? And I don't want to push you as a group past your point of patience. So if you are totally lost at something and just want the shallower thing, that's fine. The other thing that I want to point out about grammar in general is everything is linked together. There are all sorts of interconnections. And because I can't pour all of that information into your brains in a single go, we have to do this in iterations, right? We're going to have to do a simple view of a bunch of different things. Then when we get to something that complicates it, we'll have to go back to an earlier topic and revise it, right? I am not the Matrix. Exactly, Bins. Right. So we are going to start with lexical categories. In other words, what are traditionally called parts of speech. This will be an overview in certain respects, but there are certain ways in which the traditional parts of speech are problematic, the way that they're taught. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions that you can get and some of the categories that aren't normally taught to you in the K through 12 textbook scheme. Then we're going to develop a notion of phrase structure. Right? The way that linguistics deals with phrases is very different and more precise than the casual treatment of phrases. Once we get phrase structure, you will have some sense of some of the really fundamental building blocks of language and how things are put together. And, you'll start to be able to pick apart and analyze things. From phrases, we'll go on to bigger things, right? Clause, sentence structure. Once we get all of that under our belt, once we have those building blocks of language, we'll be able to talk about how they combine to form meaning. Right. Yes, it is different from TLU. I will try to give more TLU examples as we go. Right. And once we get into that intersection of grammar and meaning, we get into rhetorical grammar for it. And so those are my main things. I may do the word formation lesson before lexical categories or after. I'll probably do it after. Probably makes more sense to do it after. So next time we'll talk about parts of speech and what they are. And I'm really glad that you all have found this interesting. Yeah, you can definitely find, once you start
much rejoicing
learning this stuff. Oh, Kiwi, wow, 1,000 bits. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I did want to mention a few books. I had one example about the WLF ordering Ellie to lay her weapons on the ground. Fucking pool. I'll have to have a... This has nothing to do with grammar. A little to do with grammar. Maybe... Okay. I may not be able to work it into the next part of speech lesson, but I will work in curses as a part of speech, and we can talk about curse infixation or fucking insertion, as it's often called, and the fucking pool and stuff like that when we do parts of speech. So we'll see if I might not have time for that in the next stream, but we'll give it a shot. Right. Yeah. Curse infixation. This refers to the process where you stick a curse word in the middle of another word. Fan-fucking-tastic. Right. So fucking insertion. Or curse infixation. to be more polite about it.
And there was much rejoicing.
Hey, Walter, thank you for that 100 bits. I did want to mention a few resources. If you want a book, you might consider some of these. I haven't checked the prices recently. At once upon a time, they were all affordable, but they go in and out of print, things like that, so I'm not sure. Let me just describe to you why I picked these particular ones. Huddleston and Pullum, A Student's Introduction to English Grammar. So Huddleston and Pullum are the authors of the Cambridge Grammar of the English Language, which currently is the biggest Boondock Saint fuck speech. That's a good suggestion, Polly. Definitely. I mean, Polly. Emmy. Sorry. Huddleston and Pullum wrote the standard reference grammar of English that's currently in use. That's the Cambridge Grammar of the English Language. That is like a $250 book. Unless you are super serious about it, I do not recommend that you buy it. I do have a copy on my shelf, though. And that they have been a huge influence in my own thinking about grammar. This book of theirs is, the student is a college level, student, but it gives you a concise introduction to a more linguistically up-to-date version of grammar than you will find in a lot of the traditional grammar books. The Doing Grammar is a great book. It is a little bit more old-fashioned in the categories that it uses, but it's great. It's sort of halfway between a linguistically based account and a traditional account. Its great virtue is it shows you with abundant examples drawn from authentic English of how to analyze, and pick apart the various language. Oh, thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the 100 bits. Martha Coleman's Rhetorical Grammar. This is the sort of stuff that this is focused on that intersection between, grammar and style. It's actually very brief on the grammar. You kind of have to sort of already know what's going on to really make use of it, but it's quite a useful book. In terms of usage guides, my favorite, even though it's a little bit old now,
and there was much
is the Merriam-Webster Dictionary of English Usage. The thing that separates this, thank you, Mickey, for those 10 bits, really appreciate it. The thing that really separates the Merriam-Webster Dictionary from your ordinary usage guide is that what they do is they basically they read every other usage guide out there, and they sort of assimilate it all and come to a judgment on it and tell you what's up, right? So you can go to one source and see like, okay, there's been this disagreement on all these things. Is Christmas making noise in the background? I'll try to grab. I mean, she's not exactly the jump in your lap kind of cat, but I'll try to grab her for another stream. Yeah, it's written by dictionary people, but it's a usage guide, not a dictionary. Highly recommend that one. Most usage guides are, somewhat opinionated and give you just one perspective. I didn't put it down here, but a second usage, although it's a little bit on the conservative side for my taste, is Brian Garner's Modern English Usage. Right? That's another possibility. So if you're looking for sources, here are some recommendations. I could give you a lot more, but, that's what I'm doing.